Hey guys, so I wanted to give you a bit of a breakdown of what just happened today, like just now in the last hour, and really like use this as like a testament to like why I'm so passionate about inner healing, healing your inner child, really diving deep into your past traumas and learning what tools help you to be able to ground yourself in these situations. So I'll give you a little bit of like context of like what happened. Before I dive into that, if I'm new to your page, my name is Shanae. I'm an intuitive business coach. I am helping you to create financial freedom and emotional freedom through different tools and resources. Um, Basically, what happened today was really like it was a really overstimulating situation. So I do have ADHD. I don't officially have like a diagnosis for autism, but I know that there's an underlying like there is autism in there, which makes it really easy for me to get overstimulated in like a public setting and in a crowded situation. So we went into a public pool, which is like within our complex, and it was just a really overstimulating situation to begin with. It was a stressful environment because now I'm tackling like it's just me with my kids going into the pool, and both kids are not super strong swimmers yet, and so it's kind of already a stressful situation to go into. But I was like, you know what, it's gonna be okay. And then and now I already have like an undertone of anxiety going into the situation. Then we get there, and there's probably at least like 20 kids in this pool, and it's not like the biggest pool ever. It's not like a, Olympic sized pool or anything like that. And so like there's a lot of kids, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of splashing, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of laughing. Everyone's having a good time. I am slowly like hitting my peak, right? And I've only been there for like 5 minutes. I'm already like overstimulated. So I'm trying to like keep myself together and just like kind of like just keep reminding myself like we're only here for a few minutes, like for like maybe half an hour, and then we have to go, and it's gonna be okay. Then my youngest son gets wet, and he doesn't want to be in the pool. He doesn't want water on him, and so now he's just like over it. And I was like, okay, I'm already like, I'm overstimulated now. People are like coming into my space. There's like pool toys everywhere. It was just like a very like crowded situation, and so we pretty much pack up. My oldest was getting like really disappointed because he wanted to be at the pool and he wanted to stay there. And so I just basically felt like I was letting him down. And I'm like explaining to him that I'm feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated. Miles is like my son, my youngest is very like he's done. Like we need to go. So like we'll come back. And sort of just like his little face dropped and stuff. And I just like felt like pretty much the worst mom ever in that moment. So then we're packing up our stuff and we head out, and as we're like heading back, like I'm like escalating now, like I've gone past the point of my like barrier. I'm already like, now I'm like overwhelmed, like I overstimulated. I need to disconnect, and I'm like dysregulated to the max. Like everything in my body is on fire. Like I had so much tightness in my stomach, tension in my neck, tightness in my chest, like just trouble breathing, basically like feeling like that full on panic attack coming on. Now, keep in mind, if you're new to me and to my journey, I used to struggle with panic attacks on a daily basis before I started my healing journey, and that was back in 2021 was kind of like the peak of having like daily panic attacks. And so like I'm very aware of like what that body reaction feels like, but I've also been doing a lot of work over the last few years to like overcome that. So basically, um, I'm just doing what I can to like just stay like present in the moment and ground myself as much as I can and not go into full panic attack. Came back to the house, quickly like rinsed off, and then I just told the kids now I'm yelling because I'm like dysregulated. I'm just at a high like peak, and I'm just like, you know what? I like cannot be talked to right now. I can't be asked questions. I can't like all of these things are just like it's too much. Like I need time to just to be present with myself and to regulate. Like I help you guys to regulate yourself, but I don't have anybody who can regulate for me and to help me. And so I've learned how to do that for myself, but I just need the space to do that and like honor how I'm feeling and like give me the space that I need. because like I'll bounce back and like it'll be okay, but like I just need that space. And so like keep in mind they're 6 and 4 now, so like it's easier to communicate and like teach them, but like it's still really hard to not feel like I've like let them down, right? And so like I'm honoring like how I feel about it. But basically I I know that like all the work that I'm doing on myself is paying off through them, because I see how they get themselves regulated faster. Like I see how far I've come because I've had such a journey like of struggle throughout my life. Even as a child, I had no clue how to manage my anger. I like literally referred to myself as like the Hulk when I was in high school, because I just had these like intense outbursts of anger, and I'm like, do I need anger management? Like, what is going on? Once I got diagnosed with ADHD, I understood that like, okay, it's easy to get dysregulated, and then like I understood more about myself and learned that. And it's just been an ongoing journey since then. It's been about a year and a half since I've found out that I had ADHD, about a year since I've got diagnosed. And so, like, it's just that in itself has been a journey. But I just really wanted to come on here and just give you guys some hope and some, I guess, like, be an example of like what is possible. That, like, if you do feel like you are really like struggling with panic attacks and with having like a lot of anxiety and stuff like that, there's ways to manage it. There's ways to ground yourself. There's tools available for you. And like, it does take a lot of work and it takes a lot of like self reflection. But the more that you do it, the more that you practice it, the easier that it gets. And you're able to come out of that high peak anxiety, overstimulated situation a lot faster. And it's just something that now I have that in my back pocket. I've got the tools in my tool belt, and I'm constantly learning different ways, different grounding techniques, and different like things to help me to have that emotional freedom, because I was never taught how to have emotional freedom when I was growing up. And I know a lot of people like can resonate with that. That's just not something that we talked about. Like, our parents didn't know anything about talking about emotions, and like now our kids are starting to learn about emotions and stuff in school and stuff, which is like, that's even new, right? But like, we just didn't really like, that wasn't a topic. You just like, you knew that you were either angry, sad, or happy. Like, those are the emotions. And now there's like so much more depth to it that we understand. We're learning so much more every single day, and it's just so important. Like, if I can give you anything that you take away from this entire video, if you stay this long, if you watch the whole thing, if you don't, if you follow my journey, if you don't, like, just if you can take anything away from this video, and like, if you're at a point where you're wanting to start your healing journey, or you are on your healing journey, you just need some inspiration, or whatever the case is, just be compassionate with yourself. Because the more that you feed that negative belief that you are failing, and that you let your kids down, or that you like drop the ball, or that you're a bad mom, or whatever, the longer you're going to sit in it. And the techniques and the tools and stuff that I've learned, and that I'm starting to help people to like to understand and learn how to incorporate in their life too, all of these techniques are here to meet you where you're at, to honor how you're feeling, to not just brush it off and stuff it down, because we're all really, really good at that and pretending that it doesn't exist. We actually acknowledge how we're feeling. We're naming the feelings. We're recognizing where it's showing up in our body. We're working through that emotion, and we're releasing it so that we don't it doesn't get stored. One analogy that you can think of too is like, if you're stuffing down an emotion, think of like when you're wanting to say something out loud and you hold yourself back and you like swallow, you're literally like swallowing that emotion, and it's getting stored in your body. It's not releasing itself. So unless you're consciously releasing energy, especially those specific trauma things, stuff gets stuck in your body. And it's going to continue to show up in different scenarios. And a lot of time, what people don't really like know or haven't really connected yet, is the fact that it's our inner child that is giving us a warning. They are aware that this is something else has happened, and it could be something that we're aware of, or something that's happened in the past that we have blocked out, or that our subconscious has blocked out, because of the fact that we it's a safety response. And so when your inner child starts speaking up and they start giving you the signals of anxiety, of panic, of like these physical, your body is like going into like shutdown or whatever, getting to a point where you can disconnect from like what you're feeling and recognize what you're feeling, if that makes sense. Like no longer like being stuck and trapped in that feeling, but actually being like, oh, I'm feeling this way, like what is going on, and start like analyzing what's happening and coming from a place of curiosity and like a different lens on the situation. It's a different perspective, and almost talking to yourself like as if you're talking to your inner child, like talking to your child and saying like, hey, like what's going on, like what are you feeling, like you don't have to name like who, like what age or anything like that. Like sometimes that will come up and you can ask, like you can say like like how old are you right now, and so you can sort of pinpoint like when was there a traumatic experience that happened, or did something happen in the past that may have been triggering in this kind of way. So then now you're in a public setting, and there's so many different elements, right? There's so many different moving parts, especially in like my situation. But I know that this is a common thing for a lot of people that struggle with anxiety. And having ADHD, you struggle with anxiety a lot. And many times you get diagnosed with anxiety and depression because that is what surfaces. That's really what you're seeing on the outside, and that's what your emotion, that's what you're feeling. You're feeling that anxiety and stuff, but when you look a little deeper and actually uncover why the anxiety is there, and you discover that you have the ADHD and you know how to manage that ADHD and know how to like come at yourself with a little bit more compassion, it's easier to go through that situation. And unfortunately, when you are a parent, you are put into difficult situations a lot, and you kind of have to put your own emotions aside. You kind of have to like just set aside how you're feeling in that situation to give your kids that experience, but that also doesn't allow you to not honor how you're feeling. So the part of the healing journey and like the way that my approach is with my parenting and this journey that's happened, like because I became a mom, that was pretty much the catalyst of this whole healing journey. And I knew that I had to do it different. I knew that I had to teach my kids differently. I never asked for this healing journey to happen. It happened. I got into a really, really dark place, and I got to a point where I needed to either find a way to claw myself out of this black hole and follow that little tiny speck of like pinhole of a light that was still left, or just look the other way and pretend and just be done. You know what I mean? Like I was done, and I chose to follow that voice that said like, I have work to do here. I've got stuff that I have to fix, and I have to like do it different. And so that's me living in my purpose now. And so like I have a new lease on life, and I have a new drive in life, because I know that there's so many people that need help, and I know that there's so many people that need to hear what I have to say in my story. And that's why I continue to show up even when I don't necessarily feel like it, or when I'm feeling defeated and like just like nobody's listening. But the more that I heal and the more the work that I do, the more that I honor that there are people, even if I just help one person with what I'm doing, like that's enough, right? Like I know that I'm doing it different for my kids. I'm teaching them on total like skills that are going to help them in life and help them through really difficult situations and help them to navigate like life on a different level, and to actually feel like they have power and control of the situation, as opposed to just like being a victim to the situation. And I don't like using the word victim. I don't use it a lot, but that is essentially what happens. Like when you have anxiety and depression and stuff kind of take over, it's really easy for that to overcome you until you learn how to overcome it, until you have the tools, and until you've practiced enough, and until you get to a point that you can, like I said, come from a different perspective. It's like, instead of being the person that's now suffering with the anxiety and depression, it's now it's a different part of you that's suffering with it, and you're able to now help that part of you. You're kind of like, when you get a cut, for example, and you've got like your little like army of like blood cells that come and like fix it and attack it, like you're now your own army team that can help to like heal yourself, and getting to yourself to that space and like being able to like to be your own savior essentially is like, it's crazy. Because when I was going through my daily panic attacks, I was so defeated because I had no way to help myself. I had no tools. I had no way of knowing how, like, what was going on. I was terrified daily, and I had to rely. The only thing that I could do was to have my husband come home from work and like leave work early to deal with me, basically like a puddle on the floor, not able to function or move. And I've got these two like little kids looking at me like for like what's going on with mom, and they're like super tiny at that point. And um just not having any way of actually like helping myself, and having to always rely on him to come home so that I could leave and just disconnect. And like instinctively I knew that that's what I needed. I knew I needed that space and that time and whatever, but then the issue is that it never helped. Me just leaving the house or going and sitting in my car or going and screaming into the pillow or going and like, you know, doing those things initially, because there was so much that I had to work through and so much that I had to like unpack. Um, it wasn't like enough at that point, and it was just like it took me so long to move on from that situation. It just took like days, and then I was so exhausted after this panic attack that like literally the next day I'm just like a vegetable on the couch. Like there was just no way that I had anything left, and I have to still show up and be mom. Like it's not easy, and like nobody talks about this side of motherhood. No one talks about the side like of the kind of darker side of it. But something that I've been doing on my healing journey is learning how to balance like the light and the dark, and learning to accept that there are days where I'm just going to have no energy for life. I'm not going to be able to show up in my best way, and I'm not going to beat myself up for it, because that's not really doing anybody any favors, right? Where before I would be beating myself up, like, you know, talking down on myself, and like, why? At this point, like where I'm at, when I look at that situation, and like I hear like all the time like how people are talking to themselves and stuff, I'm just like, it like hurts my heart, because that's how you're talking to your inner child. Your inner child is like needing you right now. There's some red flag, there's some warning that they're trying to tell you, something that they're needing from you. And the way that you're talking to yourself is literally how you're talking to that inner child, who's literally just desperately wanting to be seen and heard and know that they're safe and they're not alone. And it's not your fault if you're at a point where you just don't know how to like pick up on that yet. But it's that awareness part, that like that awareness of your self-awareness, that is very important on like as you start doing self-discovery and personal development, and you're on this like your spiritual journey or your awakening or whatever, like wherever part you're at. It's just really important to just remember, like my journey basically started with learning to love myself, and that really unraveled a lot of things, because there was no love for myself. Like I did not take care of myself properly. There's no self-care. I did not speak kindly to myself. I couldn't look in the mirror and say I love you without like bursting into tears or feeling like weird about it, or just like not being able to make eye contact with myself, like all of those things, like feeling awkward looking at the mirror. Like that's all side effects of previous trauma, and like just your lack of learning how to love yourself. And that's really like what I'm advocating, right? I'm just advocating for people to become aware and learn to care for themselves and heal the parts of them that are desperately like wanting to be heard and seen, and being able to like bounce back from these situations a lot faster, so that you're not just stuck in it, and you're not just like trapped in your own feelings or your own stuff, and you are able to actually overcome it by yourself without having to like now sit and wait for your therapy session, or now sit and wait for your husband to get home or your partner or whoever, and like it just gives you so much more power back and so much more strength to be able to navigate life moving forward. And it's the best fucking feeling. And I cannot, like, I just, there's no words. Like, it's just the amount of gratitude I have for like how far I've come and how much work I've put into myself and like my healing journey and just everything, and like how many lives I've impacted just doing what I'm doing every single day, and like my perspective now, and like just helping people with, it's the tiny little nudges, it's the like, it's catching those moments where there's like that self-talk and stuff, and you're like, would you talk to your child like that? Like, and just kind of like asking these prompting questions where they're just like, oh, like, I didn't even think about that. Like, the amount of times, like, when I say something and I'm like, I will gently call them out on something, and I'll never like intentionally try to hurt anyone, but I will kind of just be like, have you ever thought of it like this? Or like, whatever the situation is. And the amount of times that I get back, like, oh, like, I never even thought of it. Like, that never even crossed my mind. Or like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's literally my entire life. Like, that's everything that how I've talked forever. And reactions I get back now from that, from things that I say, and like even more so now. And it's just a matter of perspective. Like, everything is just, it's all about perspective. So if you're still here, I really appreciate you. I love you. I'm here to support you on your journey and empower you that like you're not alone. And this is something that you're able to navigate this journey. I'm here as an example of being a super busy mom with my 2 kids and my dog and my husband and my business and working full time and all of it. Like, I am trying to set an example that it is possible, and it's literally just a daily routine of caring for yourself and making yourself part of your list. And a lot of things are just easier said than done, and it's just a matter of holding yourself accountable to not feeling like shit anymore. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just wanted to give you this. It's 22:22, sorry, on the timer. Just as I'm closing off here. If you guys want more information about how I can help you with creating financial freedom and with creating emotional freedom through EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, then you can check out the link in my bio as well. And I'm just in the process of setting up my website properly, and because right now I'm just using StanStore, and like with the links and everything, I'm working on getting the website set up, and I am working on getting a blog up for you guys too, and like building out my online presence a little bit more. It's just been like a little bit rocky for the last couple months. So yeah, just stay tuned. And if you're still here, make sure that you check out the sort of second part to this, because there's an EFT tapping that I'm doing specifically for this trauma, like this, not trauma, this overstimulating situation. So it's something that you can save and come back to whenever you feel like that overwhelm, and it's specifically for like ADHD and helping your inner child through a overstimulating situation. So just go and check that out, and thank you for being here on my journey with me.